So it's the year 312, way before satellites were beaming channels down. According to Eusebius, the biographer of the Emperor Constantine, Constantine and his forces were preparing for a decisive battle against Maxentius when they saw a cross of light in the sky, along with the Greek words, "In this sign conquer." That night, Constantine had a dream in which Jesus Christ reinforced this message. The next day, the great emperor had marked the Christian symbol of the cross on his soldiers' shields. Of course, Constantine is now well known, and the rest is history. Christianity became the state religion, and the persecution of Christians, which had gone on for 300 plus years, immediately came to an end. So what role do ancient myths and symbols have to play in the space and satellite culture of 2025? Let's find out with one very specific initiative here on the Better Satellite World. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Better Satellite World, the podcast of Space and Satellite Professionals International. I'm Lou Zaccarella. In May 2023, many of you will remember that we began a popular four-part series called The Road Less Traveled. The first guest on that series was a popular, but perhaps unlikely for some, connection to the space and satellite industry. However, his work has been dedicated to continuing the work of the world's oldest observatory. Brother Guy Consolmagno was my first guest. That's who I'm talking about. The Jesuit scientist spoke to us about his work and specialty, which was the impact of asteroids on small constellations. You may recall that he has his own asteroid, so he's a big deal. It's number 4597 Consolmagno. And he, of course, was the recipient of the Carl Sagan Medal from the American Astronomical Society. Well, today, 2 years later, we're going to start a new series of The Road Less Traveled. Again, you're going to meet people in our series and in our orbit that you may not have heard about. You may have, but they're doing things directly or on the fringes of the industry that reveal once again to us the remarkably complex texture of the human spirit, especially when it comes to connecting technology and culture to the space and satellite industry. Before we go there, the Better Satellite World is supported by the corporate partners of SSPI, along with its 3,000 members, people just like yourself. Thank you so much. Justin Park is an entrepreneur, technology consultant, and thought leader with degrees in aerospace management and computer science from the International Space University and the University of Iowa. Mr. Park learned his trade at the NASA Ames Research Center during his tenure with Accenture and as an associate for Booz Allen Hamilton at NASA headquarters in Washington. His first company, Intergalactic Education, developed space-centric mobile apps. He was a volunteer editor for the Space Generation Advisory Council, and in 2017, he gave a TEDx talk at Suffolk University on the emerging commercial space economy. He's presented at many conferences, is a published author, and was awarded the Yuri Gagarin Medal of Cosmonautics at the Robert Heinlein Flight into the Future contest back in '08. I'm proud to say he currently sits on the board of the Space and Satellite Professionals International Mid-Atlantic chapter, our most active and successful chapter. But his most recent endeavor, the Cross on the Moon Coalition, is focused on bringing together spirituality and space exploration. And that makes him someone of interest to The Road Less Traveled. He's also a listener of this podcast, I'm told. Justin Park, welcome.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to see you. Great to see that smiling face. And I know you have a bit of a cold, so we're going to try not to put too much pressure on your voice. So no singing is required today. First of all, congratulations. Tamara Bond Williams tells me you won the Profile Update Prize for our new website. So you're a good member of the board, going first and updating on the new website. So thanks for doing that.
No problem.
I mentioned you serve on that Mid-Atlantic chapter board, and it is a real important one to us. Why is that important to you, Justin?
It's just a community of fantastic people. An early mentor of mine recommended that I get engaged with the community and volunteer with the board. And so, yeah, I've been an active member helping out with fundraisers. I like what we do. We give away a number of scholarships to some of the different local universities, and it's, yeah, just a fantastic organization to be a part of.
Yeah, well, we're proud to have you as part of it. Who's the mentor? Anyone we know?
It's Charity Whedon.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, she's great. Well, let's get right into it here. What is the mission of the coalition?
So the Cross on the Moon Coalition, we want to lead people to Jesus Christ through space exploration. We are going to the moon now. A lot of different commercial space companies are, and it's just important that we remind people of the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. It's important that we sanctify the moon. Just from a philosophical standpoint, it would make sense that God be the one leading us into the heavens, into space. And so that's really the focus of the coalition.
Yeah. How did it get formed?
So I created the 501c3 last year. Yeah, I hesitate to call myself a serial entrepreneur, but this isn't my first endeavor.
You are.
And so, yeah, just bringing people together, people of faith, people from the space industry. It's an interesting intersection, which is, yeah, why I really like this series that you're doing right now. I think it's very important.
Yeah. Now let's talk about inspirations. Obviously, the inspiration you've laid out pretty clearly. Was there? I mean, did you see a cross in the sky like Constantine? Did you have that moment where you said, "This is something that I feel like I'm obligated to do, that I'm being asked to do," because you could have started a series of prayer breakfasts right here on Earth, but you've got this as your specific mission.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know the story about Constantine having a dream with Jesus in it. I also, in fact, had a dream, backing up a little bit. My family went to church every week growing up, but then my mother passed of cancer when I was a teenager, and it was very hard on the family and hard on me personally. I lost my relationship with God, and yeah, we just didn't go to church for a long time. And yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, she came down in a dream as an angel and helped me reconcile with God, and that was a very major turning point in my life. And yeah, I just realized that I need to be in contact with God, and started getting more involved with the faith. I talked to my dad about it, and he suggested listening to Joel Osteen. Joel, yeah, is a very positive preacher, and so yeah, I just started listening to him, and he kind of helped me realize that I have a unique background, in space, and just using the gifts that God's given me to promote this message and evangelize, and really trying to lead people to salvation.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm focusing my life on right now.
very good. And your parents were influential there. And for those of you who may not be familiar from overseas, Joel Osteen is a preacher in Houston. He's an evangelist preacher, Protestant preacher, who has a very significant following, both on television and at his church. So that's who Justin is referring to. A very, very powerful person in terms of preaching the mission. The other thing that is interesting when we talk about the story of Constantine, which I always, sort of connect to our industry. We're an industry of defiance. People for centuries said, first of all, you can't defy gravity, unless you jump up and down or get pushed off a cliff. Well, even then, I guess you're subject to gravity if you get pushed off a cliff, now that I think of it. But you can't do these things, and so we're defiant. kept going out, right? Kept going out, kept pushing, kept using our gifts to do these things. And it's interesting because the cross, from my reading of history and in my own background, I understand it. It's a symbol born in defiance. It was originally, and I will say this because it was told to me by a Catholic priest. It was really the early Christians before Constantine telling the Romans, "Screw you." I mean, they literally would use the cross for that purpose. So you cannot defeat us in the end, which I think is really fascinating. And so the cross then becomes a symbol. So why for you is that Christian symbol born of defiance important on the lunar surface? You mentioned sanctification, but is there something else that you as an industry professional are expressing here?
Yeah, well, I just want to remind people of the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross. I don't think you have a very good chance in the eternity that comes after this life if we didn't have that sacrifice that he made. And this is just kind of a reminder of that event. We're coming up on the 2000-year anniversary. And so it's just going to be a very important moment in human history when we achieve this mission. When this mission finds success, it's going to usher in this new era of love and hope and peace, I pray.
Yes, well, we all do.
You are listening to The Better Satellite World, the longest-running continuous podcast in the commercial space and satellite industry. The Better Satellite World podcast is funded by the corporate partners of SSPI, Hughes, Access Intelligence, and the American Space Exploration Fund. This podcast is also supported by live event partner Hogan Lovells. Have you heard about SBQ? Space Business Qualified is a popular online learning program for industry professionals designed by JSOA, SSPI, and SatProf. To learn more, visit spacebq.org. And in August and November, join Tamra, Space News Magazine, and the New York Space Alliance for the next New York Space Business Roundtable. If you want to get inside the industry's biggest issues and investments, meet startups and high-profile industry leaders from around the world, the Roundtable is the real New York event you cannot miss. If you like this podcast and are hearing it for the first time, a new podcast drops every Monday. To listen to previously released episodes, visit sspi.org/podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. And now back to the Better Satellite World.
But now, Jason, you and I both know the space and satellite community is global. It's widespread from Washington to Paris, Tokyo to Tel Aviv to Bahrain. In fact, we're going to do a podcast with two future Leader Award recipients who you probably know later this week from Bahrain. Of course, not everybody believes exactly what you believe. What is their reaction to the coalition? I mean, is there a place within this idea for each of the Abrahamic faiths?
Yeah, it's hard to speak for other people, but I do hope that this is going to remind people of the love that God has for us and maybe even inspire some of the other religions to make sacrifices to God in space. As we go out into the cosmos, we're going to take our culture with us. It's infinitely important. In doing it, it was one of the main reasons why people came to the United States of America in the beginning, right? Columbus and the Pilgrims, they were doing it for religious purpose as much as anything.
Yeah, it's true. As a matter of fact, I'm reading Dan Jones' book about the Great Crusades, and the degree to which, obviously there were people trying to grab as much as they could, but the degree to which faith influenced a lot of that, both good and bad. It's interesting that you say that, because when the human species and its roots start to go down in space, first as a workplace, which I think we can all agree is going to be the first set of endeavors, and then later as settlements. Let me ask you, as a Christian now and leading this coalition, what aspects of Christianity will be the most useful for those inhabitants? Because they're going to now be unmoored from the cultures, whether it's Christianity or Islam or Judaism or atheism, and all of a sudden they're in these other places. So we are going to bring our cultures with us, no question about it. I'll probably wear a Notre Dame shirt when I'm up there. But what aspects of the faith that you're subscribing to will be the most useful as we get out into the future?
Yeah, I think the things that Jesus preached, right? Love and mercy and brotherhood are really going to be essential, right? Space is already hard. And so just being cognizant of how important our humanity is and how important it is to get along, we have to do that, or it's going to be even harder, right? We just need to remember what our principles are and the things that make us human. I think those are probably the most important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Making us more human as we get more detached from where we have started. And I think that's a great point. My own mom used to say, if we can continue to practice what the Christians call the Beatitudes, and understand, how important they are to just becoming more and more of a human being as you age, we'll have a much better place. So, my mother, she was like the Pope; she knew everything. But she was certainly right there. Let me ask you this, Justin, I know we're going to wrap it up soon, but a couple final questions. Do you see an opportunity for your project to serve as that bridge for interfaith dialogue or collaboration between secular and religious communities based on some of the things you've just been saying? And is there sort of a structure for that?
Yeah, I would hope that this mission would inspire the other religions to make sacrifices for God. I envision, a lot of people going into space in the future, right? If you look at the way technology grows exponentially, one would hope that in 50 or 60 years, there'll be lots and lots of people going into space, and hopefully everyone will have an opportunity. One of the things that I do like in the Islamic religion is this concept of Hajj, where you, at one point in your life, go to Mecca. And I just think that space makes a really good new Mecca where hopefully we'll all have the opportunity at some point to go and thank God for all of the amazing things that we have in our universe, and just acknowledge the beauty and the grace that we've been given.
Yeah. And again, we've talked with Frank White on the show, and I think he gave us a great contribution with his book, The Overview Effect. It's a great tool because, having spoken with everyone who has left the Earth and looked at it from the perspective of space, as Frank says, it is really a very useful tool for developing that sense of appreciation, first and foremost. Whether people change internally, is to be seen. I think that is the work that's still going to have to be done. But, I think projects like yours at least give us a sense of mooring, a sense of direction. And I commend you for that, Justin. Let me ask you, so obviously you're an entrepreneur, so you look at milestones. What are the milestones for the coalition in the coming year?
Yeah, so we have a Kickstarter campaign coming up. Kickstarter is good for raising a little bit of funding, but also raising awareness. We want to try and reach as many people as we can with the coalition. One of the things that made the Apollo mission so impactful is that the whole world was watching, and we really want to make sure that the whole world is watching this time around as well. We've got a couple of toy manufacturers that we're working with. And so we're going to have little 10-inch replica versions of this lunar cross that we're going to allow our contributors to be able to have. They can give to their kids, or they can put it on their desk at work as a testament to their faith. And at the same time, we're going to have a 10-foot version that will unfold off the back of a pickup truck. And so we'll be able to pull up in this, truck that we're going to paint it like the moon. And then the cross will deploy out in front of the church or congregation, and then people can see it as they walk into church on Sunday.
Yeah, well, you're unstoppable, I'll tell you. Those are nice ideas. A little merch there. Okay. And how can people get involved in the program, the Kickstarter, if they want to?
Sure. If they go to mooncross.org, they can sign up for our newsletter. We send something out about once a week, and that just gives updates on how the coalition is progressing. We're hoping to do all hands meetings once a month, and that way, we can, just do like a big open dialogue about people that want to show enthusiasm or just get involved. It's really about building the coalition as much as is getting this mechanical cross to the surface. There, I would say, equally important, or maybe even it's more important to build the coalition, right? It's
the community, sure.
Yeah, the community, exactly.
Yeah. And that concludes my conversation with Justin Park, talking about his new project. Justin, thank you again for coming by.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it.
And feel better. To hear this and other podcasts from the Better Satellite World, go to sspi.org/podcasts. And please subscribe if you like this podcast and this series, the second series of The Road Less Traveled. A new podcast drops each Monday, fresh baked. We look forward to you joining us. For Space and Satellite Professionals International, the world's largest nonprofit trade association for the commercial space and satellite industry, and our producer, Ari Yates, I'm Lou Zaccarella. Let's go up and let's go out, and let's make it a better satellite world. Take care, everybody.